Hello, I'm Brianna Kramer, the state legislative reporter with the Carolina Journal. Today we're here with Senator Phil Berger, the leader of the North Carolina Senate. And we are just here to get some ideas of what priorities and policies we can expect to see in the long session here in North Carolina. So what are the Senate Republicans planning for in this session, and what can North Carolinians expect to see in the state legislature?
Yeah, so I think our members are, as they have over the years, continuing to work together, continuing to advance what we would consider to be a conservative agenda, working for their constituents. Obviously, each member has some local issue that will be raised by them, but overall, I think we are hitting the ground running. One of the first things that we're going to need to do is an additional bill to deal with hurricane recovery. The House is taking the first stab at that, and they will send a bill over to us. We've got a couple of members who have been working informally with some of the House folks discussing some of those issues. We'll see when the bill gets over what, if any, modifications will need to be made. Beyond that, this week was supposed to be the beginning of what are joint meetings between the House and the Senate budget committees to get an overview of kind of where the state is. We received updated information from both our nonpartisan staff and the governor's staff on projections as far as revenue is concerned. So that's one of the first steps, is just to make sure that the state's still in solid position as far as state revenue is concerned. And they'll begin the process of reviewing various budgets. A couple of weeks from now, the Senate folks will break off from those joint meetings, and we'll begin the process of constructing the Senate version of the budget. I think we've agreed with the governor on a date for the State of the State address. I think an announcement will be coming out soon as far as that's concerned. And so it's a fairly regular start of a legislative long session.
And in terms of transparency, what do you think the North Carolina General Assembly could do to enhance transparency and increase maybe access to public records and the ability for North Carolinians to view what is happening in the General Assembly?
Yeah, so all of our committee meetings are streamed online, and they're available. Nothing prevents an individual from recording that as it is taking place. I believe there are actually some press outlets that do record those committee meetings and post them online, so I think that information is available. Beyond that, if folks just have a Wi-Fi connection but don't have the ability to see, they can get the audio. Our legislative sessions themselves, the voting sessions of the Senate, are streamed. The audio is streamed as the session is ongoing. The press generally will have one or more cameras in the session at that time. I've not had members come to me with recommendations or suggestions about going beyond that. Obviously, if it's something that comes up, we'll have a discussion about it, but I believe every citizen in North Carolina, to the extent that they're interested in what's happening at the General Assembly, has the ability to access those things as they occur.
Okay, so possibly discussions one day if more people bring it up on like maybe camera options.
Sure, we can always talk about that, and we'll see whether or not there are some enhancements that the members are supportive of.
Republicans have had an impressive streak of tax cuts in the past decade or so. What can we expect in terms of cutting taxes, reducing regulations on businesses and taxpayers? And is this something that Senate Republicans are working towards in this session?
Yeah, we'll see whether or not any bills get introduced in that regard. You mentioned our record of tax reform in North Carolina, which is pretty substantial. If you were to go back 15 years and looked at what our individual income tax rate was and what our corporate income tax rate was, and look at what the rates are today, I mean, we've basically cut the individual income tax rate in half. We have, as far as the corporate rate, more than cut it in half, and it's on its way to being eliminated in the next 6 years. And so a substantial progression in the right direction of reducing the tax burden on individuals and corporations in North Carolina. There are likely some other areas that we can address the tax structure in North Carolina. You mentioned the franchise tax. I think there are probably some reforms that can take place there, although we've made some substantial progress as far as reforming the franchise tax as well. Beyond that, there are questions about deductions, questions about how we handle the sales tax, whether or not the base for sales tax is something that that might need to be looked at. So we will continue to look at ways to address the tax burden on the private sector, and we'll do that in a way that allows the private sector to continue to grow and prosper in North Carolina, because ultimately the growth that we're seeing in the state has facilitated a growth in the economy of the state, which has facilitated the collection of revenue even at lower rates that exceeds what we heretofore collected. So to the extent that we can continue to reduce the rates, continue to simplify the tax code, whether it's the individual or corporate code, or it's the franchise code, or some other tax provisions, we intend to do that.
There's been a strong push for constitutional carry, and that is something that you co-signed this session. What are your thoughts on constitutional carry, and is this something that the Senate and the House can both push through in the long session?
Yeah, so I'm not going to comment on whether it'll move in the House. I have no idea for sure. You know, they had a bill introduced last time that they didn't move. So we'll see what happens there. On the Senate side, and as far as support for that legislation, I've been supportive of constitutional carry for a long period of time. I signed on to the bill this time. My understanding, my recollection is that no bill was introduced in the Senate last session, and so I expect that we'll have conversations within our caucus as to where our members are. I feel like there's support for passing constitutional carry in the Senate, and we'll make a decision as to when that bill moves.
Now, there's been one Hurricane Helene bill introduced this session, providing over $500 million for Western North Carolina in the recovery process. Can you talk to us about the recovery and how the state legislature and the federal government are working together, and with FEMA as well, to aid Western North Carolina on their road to recovery?
Yeah, so I think the unfortunate thing at this time is there is a bit of uncertainty as to exactly what we're going to see from the federal government, and there's a good bit of concern about the administrative structure that exists at the federal level, particularly with FEMA. So let's talk about a couple of things. So the modification that may be needed at the federal level of funding from the federal level to the state is one that, to the extent that we can move the federal government away from an administrative, what I would consider to be a bloated system, to something in the nature of block grants in certain categories. So we're going to need several $billion to repair the transportation infrastructure that exists, that heretofore existed in Western North Carolina, to get it back to where it was. It would be much better for us if we could get those federal dollars into North Carolina quicker, so that the construction that needs to take place can be contracted and those resources deployed. As far as other federal aid, again, if we can go to more of a block grant program into the state, so that we legislatively can deploy those resources in North Carolina to where the needs are, I think that'd be a much better situation. Back in December, the federal government passed a continuing resolution for the federal budget. In that, there were dollars that were appropriated for disaster relief. Now, some of that was disaster relief for North Carolina, some of it was in Georgia and South Carolina and in other places, in Florida and other places. And so the amount of money that's going to come into North Carolina, I've seen the gross numbers, but as far as how much of that money actually makes it onto the ground into helping people in North Carolina still seems to be somewhat uncertain. I am told, and the conversations that we're having with our federal legislators, is that there will be another disaster package that will be included in the next continuing resolution. We'll see if that actually takes place. Again, I am hopeful that when that takes place, we'll see more of the block grant type of deployment of those federal resources, as opposed to funneling the money through those existing programs where a good bit of the money gets eaten up in administrative expense. So we will not, in my opinion, get enough money from the federal government to take care of all of the things that are needed. We will obviously need those dollars to partner with state resources that we have to address what needs to be done in Western North Carolina. The good news is that over the past several years, we've built up a rainy day fund that was at one point about $5 billion. We've already deployed a significant amount from those resources into various pockets to assist. I am hopeful that we will have adequate resources to take care of the needs that are out there, both the infrastructure needs, the needs for our ag community, and needs for individuals with reference to housing and other forms of assistance that have traditionally been provided during disasters.
Mm-hmm. Now, according to reports, North Carolina is the most expensive state for healthcare in the country. How can the General Assembly address this issue and help lower costs for North Carolinians for their healthcare plans in the state amid these high prices?
I think to the extent that we can infuse market forces into the healthcare economy, that we can allow those forces to help drive down costs, or at least to slow the growth in cost of healthcare. Some of those things include certificate of need. The very idea that a governmental entity has the wisdom, the wherewithal, the prudence to make a decision as to how many hospital beds are needed in a particular community, or how many diagnostic machines are needed in a community, how much health care is needed from an economic standpoint in a community. We need to let markets make those determinations, and to the extent that certificate of need requirements impair the ability of market participants to make those decisions, I think we need to alter our certificate of need protocols and maybe eliminate it altogether. I would certainly be in favor of that. Beyond that, to the extent that we can increase the supply of health care within North Carolina, then we need to find ways to do that. One of the ways to do that would be to increase practice authority for highly trained nurses, to allow them to have independent practices with appropriate oversight. And in that way, we help address, particularly in rural areas, the lack of healthcare professionals who can treat individuals in those communities. I think it helps the overall situation with healthcare availability in North Carolina. Certainly helps in those rural areas and will increase supply of providers. And by increasing those supplies, hopefully drive down or at least ameliorate the upward pressure on cost. There are other market type reforms that we would need to look at, and we'll try to look at. Fortunately or unfortunately, in the healthcare space, there are a lot of existing market participants who have a slice of the current market and will jealously guard any incursion into that, and would try to protect that turf. And that's just a battle that usually gets resolved, or at least gets addressed in legislative halls.
Okay, thank you so much, Senator Berger, for taking the time to interview with the Carolina Journal.